Do you realize that chronic stress destroys your ability to experience pleasure? Now, when you experience short-term stress, your cortisol spikes, and there's a hormone called dopamine that will increase initially. Now, dopamine is involved with pleasure. And in this case, it can act as a protective counter effect from the stress. When you go through stress over a long period of time, you're constantly triggering dopamine to the point where the receptors for dopamine start downgrading, to the point where it doesn't work anymore. And the same thing happens with chronic consumption of sugar, drugs, certain medications will do the same thing. With stress and high cortisol over a long period of time, you may notice that it's more difficult to experience pleasure. You're less motivated, you're less awake or and alert, and you basically just have more stress because there's no more counter hormone to kind of buffer that. What can you do about that? Let's give you a couple things to do. Number one, you need to get more sleep, a lot more sleep. Sleep is one of the best things to counter stress. If you can't sleep through the whole night, then try to figure out a way that you can take a nap through the day. But it's the volume of sleep that can really help you counter stress. Just lack of sleep in general will keep your cortisol elevated. Number two, decrease fear in your life. The number one thing to do is stop watching the news. In fact, I had an idea. I wanted to do a clinical experiment with a number of people to document this, because I know this is true, and evaluate someone's cortisol levels, dopamine levels, the immune system, from just 2 weeks of watching the news, regular news, right? Then to compare that with a group of people that watch no news whatsoever. I will guarantee there will be significant changes and improvement just by not watching the news for 2 weeks. In fact, you should just try this right now. Stop watching the news for 2 to 3 days and just see how you feel. And then go back to watch the news and see how you feel. Then you can decide what will be the better thing to do. Number three, exercise will give you more oxygen. It reduces stress. Get out in nature more. Go for walks, hikes in nature. It's a huge therapy. And you already know that, but I'm just making note of this. And number four, isolate the source of your stress. What is the number one source of stress in your life? Go ahead and type it down in the comment section right now. Now what you do is you attack the source of that stress. Do whatever you can to eliminate that stress, or at least reduce it. Now, if you're in a situation where you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, where you can't do anything about it, find a part of that stress situation that you can do something about, and do something about it. And then when the stress gets better, find another part of that stress that you can do something about, handle that until it's manageable. If you haven't seen my stress webinar, that's a really important one. I put it up right here. Check it out.